My name is Phil Trainor. I am Director of Security Solutions at Keysight Technologies. In a nutshell, we work with Fortune 1000 companies, major telecom corporations, governments. We create security audits on equipment and processes. So a good example is we'll work with Singtel here in Singapore, and we will test the security feasibility of large-scale deployments. 5G, massive DNS rollouts, things of that sort. More complex malware and ransomware. I think that's going to be very big, especially with 5G coming out. 5G is going to have a lot more bandwidth. So now with malware being able to do more machine-to-machine communications, about 2 years ago, there's a botnet called Mirai. It was a Internet of Things botnet. Once 5G becomes ubiquitous, it'll really have a larger ocean to swim in. I mean, what people have control of their data is a huge concern for themselves. I mean, right now, data is being mined constantly in order to get better analytics on people. Ownership of your own data is probably the most pressing thing from an existential standpoint that affects people. You know, humanity is always going to just push through. I mean, I have confidence that we're not going to be hung up on anything like the privacy thing. We will figure it out. I mean, the push to have more and more data online, ourselves more and more online 15 years ago, is the kind of hangover that is now. Like companies like Cambridge Analytica and through Facebook, people saying things like, okay, we have 10,000 data points on every citizen. I mean, this is something that scares people, but I think that we're going to figure this out, where people are going to get to keep their privacy, because otherwise there's no end game to it otherwise. So people need to own their own data about themselves. Being leased out, rented out, passed around, that's something that will eventually become illegal. And that's one of the biggest steps right there. I mean, the second step is probably utilizing technology like blockchain in order to ensure that that's not taking place, even though it's already been made illegal. I mean, the Wild West of the internet will be reeled in a bit. It'll be a lot more like a utility. When we get it right, what it looks like is companies aren't profiting off selling people. I mean, a lot of times the joke is you'll be looking at a social media platform and then something that you thought about a few days earlier and didn't tell anyone is being offered to sell you. It looks like when it's wrong is you feel you have no control over what is being sold about you to you. When it looks like it's right is the actual inverse of that, is that you are being essentially taking in media and looking at different concepts, and you're not doing so as a targeted advertisement. You're doing it as a person looking to read a story about something intriguing. You're looking to get information. You are the one consuming data. You are not being sold to. It's rolling in which direction. That's the important thing. I mean, the biggest threat to cybersecurity is always going to be people. People make mistakes. We're doing things to make things harder for mistakes to be made, but there always will be mistakes. Nothing will ever be secure. From the history of humanity all the way until now, it's impossible to achieve perfect security. Things that we're doing now to achieve better security is we're putting more policies in place. People have been doing it longer. When I first got into security was 20 years ago. I told people I worked in network security, and that didn't make any sense to them. Like, it wasn't a job. It would be like telling someone 12 years ago, I'm a data scientist. They'd be like, what is a data scientist exactly? So, I mean, when I first started doing this, the idea of a CISSP, no one ever heard of this sort of thing. But now it's fairly normal. So we're moving in the direction of more people having higher levels of education. I mean, I'm at work, and we will get an email saying, you must take this examination to learn about phishing. You must take this examination to learn about better password protection. You have your average person working at a company is very familiar with using two-factor authentication and using practices that are very current. I mean, I personally believe that is the direction to move in, where it becomes the level of ubiquity is pretty standard for people knowing about cybersecurity. So one of the toughest things about moving forward is that when newer technologies emerge, you have to essentially create a whole new security paradigm around them. I took about 5G a bit earlier. 5G is going to virtualize the entire evolved packet core, all the elements that make 5G what it is. And securing that is a whole new paradigm. Securing the way we do a thing called mobile edge computing for 5G will be a whole new thing. So like right now, everyone says, okay, we have all our data centers at Amazon in these 5 locations in these 25 different countries. Now all this compute is going to take place locally. How do you push security policies onto that effectively? How do you control the fact that the number of non-people on the internet, the number of bots, is going to exponentially increase? the ball is always curving a different way. So I guess what keeps me up at night is being able to just be, essentially to be able to think sideways enough to keep coming up with inventive ways for security to remain moving along with this ever-changing curveball. So let's say, for example, you are a company and you use Amazon Web Services and you rent compute. Before, you would push it to Seattle or Singapore to a major data center. Now there's going to be servers just local, and you'll be able to have this compute happen locally. Can you push your security policies locally the same way you did before when it was in a major data center? Say one of the most pressing security concerns about 5G is pushing security policies to the mobile edge where a lot of computing will take place. Before, it was being pushed out to major data centers where you had a little bit of stickiness and you stay there for a while. Now the mobile edge, it'll be more on the fly. So on the fly security policies of the mobile edge compute is probably the most pressing issue of 5G security.